for coming to Midwest Hemp Technology.
Thanks. I'm loving this road trip. I just need to keep going. I want to hit all the facilities.
You just came from South Bend Industrial Hemp in Great Bend with Melissa.
I did. And before that, I was with our at McCook, Nebraska at our consolidated carbon facility, which should be up and running in June.
That is awesome. Is that going to be Nebraska's first processing facility?
I believe so.
So.
Because I know Justin Loeffler's across the border in Wyoming.
Okay.
So yeah, and then we're going to travel to I&D Hemp in a few weeks, talk with them, just trying to talk with current processors and discuss struggles, hurdles, but also the wins. And of course, part of that, hopefully the discussion is going to pick up around HEMI, which is the Hemp Education Marketing Initiative.
Hemp Education Marketing Initiative.
Exactly. And I guess for those of you that do corn and soybean, it's Corn and Soybean Alliance. In Indiana, it's both, but I think some people do separate. And it's the same thing. Would we ultimately like to have a checkoff that we can work with? Sure. But I stand firm that this industry is not ready for that right now. We need to lift each other up first, and so that everyone is in the black, so to speak, before we can head that, especially if we're going to look to the farmers.
So that would be the goal of HEMI's marketing, industry-wide standards, industry-wide voice. Yeah, we both just came from NOCO, and we saw a lot of enthusiasm there for the grain and fiber markets, a bifurcation going on with the cannabinoid growers and manufacturers. And that's good. That's normal. That's natural. And I think what needs to happen for the grain and fiber side of things to really scale up. And that's what you and I are focused on. And I'm excited to hear about consolidated carbon. I think one good thing in Kansas and Nebraska is that our growers' licenses went to the USDA this year. And in the past, I've been a licensed grower for 6 years, and 6 years been paying $1,500 a year for one field. If you had another field that was further away than a quarter mile, it was another license fee. Now you can have as many lots as you want under the same license fee. And I just think that it speaks to the farmers, the fact that this is a normalized commodity crop, and we're going to treat it almost like one.
Yes,
not all the way.
Yeah,
We're
trying.
Yeah. So that's a good change. It happened in Nebraska, Iowa, and Kansas in January. And I think we'll just keep seeing more states go that way. So I'm excited about that.
I think so. It's been new for me because Indiana has our own program. Indiana, unlike most states, I think maybe Texas is in the same boat with us. The HIPP program is with the state chemist office. Our state chemist is not with the Department of Ag. And so I've worked with them for a long time. I do miss having that with the USDA side in Nebraska. I do kind of miss having that local connection and discussion. At the same time, yes, not having the exorbitant costs involved is nice. But again, it's a little bit different in Indiana just because it is the state chemist. So it's a much smaller arena, and the communication, they're very cooperative. They're very supportive. In Indiana, if a field goes hot, as long as you remediate, which means you harvest, you're safe.
That's good. It makes such a difference. I think the USDA, all the resources on their site, everything about it just feels like we want this to work, and we're bringing resources to the table. We're going to be easy to get along with. So we've had a good experience so far getting people licensed and working through their process. The website, pretty easy. Background check, pretty easy. And the people, if you call from the USDA hemp office, they'll answer and give you the info you need. So that's been a good change. We just got the numbers. I was listening to Eric Kurlock's podcast yesterday. Love that. Lancaster Farming in 2024, 5,000 acres of grain, which is up 22%.
Yes.
With 3.4 million pounds, which was up 10%, and a value of $2.6 million for hemp grain.
Good.
5,000 acres, though.
I know.
The whole country.
I know. My gut tells me that we will at least double that next year.
Yeah, this year, 25.
This year, but then also again in 2026. I think that the change is coming, and like you and I were talking about earlier and common discussion right now is, I know things are a little bit up in the air right now with tariffs and so forth, but obviously that brings benefit to the industry if we can focus on domestic production. And with those tariffs, it's going to make it much more appealing. I'm already talking to manufacturers, both with fiber and with grain. And that is why one reason I think we're going to see our grain acres go up exponentially, because even just bringing it across from Canada, I have 2 different entities who I could not get to switch to domestic because of the price point. Well, now, all of a sudden they're ready.
Yeah.
So
we've been importing a lot of hemp from Canada and China and other countries. So it does seem like a good time for the hemp industry to try to meet that demand. And we have had struggles competing on price to this point. So maybe that helps. Fiber acres, 19,000 acres, which was a 56% increase. So we are going in the right direction. I think we just started so small. Sometimes it doesn't feel like scaling really is underway, but all signs point to yes, I think.
I agree with you. And I think, we were talking about, and actually, Melissa mentioned this too. COVID was a really good time for the industry for multiple reasons. And I believe that that's where we are now. I believe that now we're getting to take that next step. I also believe, and I mean no ill will to anyone, but I also think that all the trials and tribulations of the past, most people have it's been shaken through. And so now the people that are still at the table are those that are determined to make this and to stay the course. So now like I mentioned to you, I'm hopeful that we are drawing more near to where especially the processors can begin to collaborate, begin to communicate, because supply chain, it's tough, and 1 or 2 offtake agreements could easily be landed very soon and require multiple processors to come together. And one of the things we have to recognize then is, okay, but we don't have specs and we don't have the same equipment and we don't have the same genetics. And so all of those things are going to come in time. But I feel, as I talk with everyone, we're drawing much closer to that.
Do you think Hemi, is that going to be for grain and fiber, or do you feel like the meetings of the processors would further bifurcate there?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think grain and fiber. I think enough people have had some success already with doing dual crop. Not perfect, but some success. And I've always felt that if we can get to that point, with a genetic and get to that point that a farmer can have both. That makes our jobs as processors a lot easier because they can become much more profitable that way. So that has always kind of been my goal, but realizing the constraints as far as quality of grain fiber and hurd.
It seems like you do still have to kind of pick a point of focus, but even as a grain focused processor, we still need to buy the fiber side of the crop from the farmer, and they still want to sell both sides of the crop in order to make a well-rounded whole. I think our interests are all still really interconnected. Anything on the grain feed development side? I think for us, we have been selling hemp seed snacks for chickens, laying hens around here. People have been buying it. We do have some mills, talking, formulating, looking at it, but we've just been feeding them straight hemp grains. And they like
that's great. Yeah, they really do.
They do. They like pecking at it.
I have done that with my chickens too. So I think, as an example, it's very difficult to go to a large poultry operation and say, look, it's approved, 20% ration, here you go. So I'm hopeful that something we're working on in Indiana will play out quickly and will impact everyone, which is we are going to do a control group with a very large laying hen operation. And we'll do a control group for the bedding, and we'll also do one for the ration. and we'll do it along with Purdue so that we have the science behind it. I'm hopeful that if that moves us closer to commercialization, if not straight into commercialization. So I think that's important. And I'm curious, and you may know more about this part than I'm curious to see how the new structure with AFCO in Kansas State works out.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have any feelings on that or experience with that yet.
I hope it could be good and faster. But no, I don't know enough about how that's going to work to have an opinion. But I mean, it's in Kansas, so I feel like we're proximate. We should be able to run up there and talk to them if we need to. Maybe put a little.
And I'm hoping it won't be. I'm hoping it can be. I mean, the cost of obtaining these is just crazy, and so I'm hoping we can cut that. I know, and most people probably close to this understand it, but I hadn't really put it in perspective that you can argue pro or con, but by starting with the layer hen, we really already have the work now for the broiler hens.
Yeah.
And so
the research.
Yeah. And we've been talking about cattle. I saw where, forget where I think it's University of Florida is doing a dairy feed experiment. They're using pea protein and flax.
And hemp?
No, it's just those, but it caught my eye because they're looking at the methane reduction and the digestibility. So, but I've been warned both by the Texas State Chemist and ours, please don't start with dairy because it's the same as the issue with the layer hen.
Yeah.
But I still see promise that people are from, whether you're talking feed or whether you're talking manufacturing. I love the fact that we're finally looking at biomanufacturing and biomaterials for all of this.
Yes. I'm really excited about that. I'm working on a BioKansas Innovation Festival, and they're going to let me have a session about biomaterials, and we're going to weave hemp into that. And
Perfect.
it's coming up in August, but it's just, there's so much R&D going on. Like we were talking about, so many companies are trialing it and sampling it and testing it. And all of a sudden, maybe we might sell everything because they have proven what all the R&D has been about. But I don't know about you, but every week or every few days, somebody calls with some cool idea. Exactly. They want to make hemp into something neat. And it really kind of keeps you jazzed up. And why are we doing this? Because these are materials that grow here, that can serve our industries here, that can feed our animals here. And it is difficult. But we believe in it, or we wouldn't keep pressing on. And maybe while we wrap up, I know you have been pressing on in this industry for how long?
You can see my face. I really started in about 2013.
2013. So you're about 12, 13 years.
I am. And it's, I've gotten off the roller coaster a couple of times and then went right back and got in line.
What'd you do before hemp?
I was a litigation paralegal.
Oh, wow.
And then I left.
Oh, this is coming in very handy.
Yes, yeah. And when I moved back to Indiana from California, I decided if I'm moving back and giving up the beach, then I want land and I want to grow my own food. And so we have a very small hobby farm, grow our own food and critters and all of that. And, long story, but my now stepson launched me into this world of hemp. And for me, from day one, all I have said is it's a tool in our farmers' toolbox. It really is. I don't know how many times I have to say, I don't want you to be a hemp farmer. I want you to just be a farmer who incorporates this into your rotation and derive the benefit.
Right. From that. We want you to be a successful farmer.
Yes. But it's, as you know, it's really only been in the last 4 years that we have, should I say, be free and have it be free and people actually listen to talk regen, to talk regenerative agriculture, to talk crop rotation, especially in the I states.
Yeah.
It's very difficult, but we're there now.
Yeah.
And so I get calls all the time. I mean, right now farmers, they want it.
Right.
And unfortunately we don't have a facility in Indiana or Ohio or Illinois that I can easily send them to. We're working on that too.
Yeah. So Yeah, and I think like you, we had a grant that we had about 450 acres contracted through as part of a climate smart commodity grant, and that is on pause, like so many people's grants in this industry. And so that's been a pivot for us this year, a slight setback, I would say, but something that we have just, I mean, have to figure out. Like everything else in the hemp world, you keep going. And I think at NOCO, when Sergey said, have the Russians bombed your facility today, that's become my new chant. Like, oh, this happened, but hey, nobody bombed our facility today, so we're going to keep going.
I have to remember that. That's perfect. Yeah, I agree. And we're in the same boat. It's frustrating, but at the same time, I think the good that's happening outweighs the bad for our industry in many ways. I'm just hopeful that that this next year or two will be pivotal for all of us.
I feel that. Yeah, we were up against all-time high commodities the past few years, so not that you want those prices to come down, but I think in times of change and turmoil, the producers around here anyway, they just are kind of have their antenna up for what might be coming next. And if we can present a good business case for why you would want to grow hemp, which we feel prepared to do, they're at least learning about it. And it usually takes us a year or two of talking. We have field days in the summer, bring prospective growers out so they can get a feel for it. Because once you stand in a 40 or 80 or 100 acre hemp field, it's over.
Yes.
Well, thanks for coming. I know you're traveling back, and thanks for making the trip through Kansas. And I think we do have a really good group of Kansas hempsters at a lot of levels that are persistent,
committed, and you guys are sharing like in all your ways, whether it's your retail products, whether it's even Melissa with Hurd. She's so free with her information as a precision crop specialist. And I mean, even one of my Nebraska farmers, I shared some of her information with him the other day, because I am no means an agronomist, and so it's really helpful. And that's what I see. And I hate to say it, but I'm also just really proud of this industry for the way I feel that women have stepped up and led.
Yeah.
And as a note, next year, the 2026 is the year of women in ag.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so I'm really hopeful all of us can come together and work through that and make sure that hemp has a voice in that.
Yeah. I think so many of us just see it's a solution. It's right here in front of us. It solves so many problems if we just put it to work. And, the moms of the world have had enough of this.
Exactly.
We're going to fix this.
Yeah. And I think, I think what we can bring to this table is going to continue to win and lead. So we just
thank you for keeping up the march for more than a decade in hemp. It really is a tough task, but I think there's a lot of good leadership to look to. And you go to NOCO and you see people that have been fighting, for 50 years, and they're, up against complete illegal.
Joe Hickey.
Yeah. God, man.
Well, I'm super glad we got to connect there and that you would host me as I come flying through. When I saw that, because I actually live off of 70. And so when I saw this, I'm like, okay, I have to do this.
Yeah.
I need to get home, but I need to do this. I want to see it.
And before it's 10,000 degrees, it's a good time to come to Kansas.
It's heating up.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Well, thanks for being here. We'll turn